やっと何かを喋る気になったか。先に朝食を済ませるべきだった。
Armin Arlert, a man of the mind, the next wielder of the explosive slab of bacon, the future placeholder for the great commander. A rather polarizing character to say the least in terms of Season 4. I'm just gonna say right off the bat that Armin is not only my favorite Attack on Titan character, but he's also one of my top 3 favorite anime characters of all time. While everyone else was punching, slicing, and dicing, Armin fought with his thoughts. Even if he never got to kill a single Titan, he still accomplished feats that made him to be considered by the commander himself as one of their greatest weapons. While timid and reluctant, he knew he had to get the job done, and that he did, even to the point of giving his heart for humanity. But life gave him a second chance. He not only was one of Paratus' greatest weapons, he also ate one of Marley's. It seemed like nothing could stop the momentum the show was giving him. The first fight in the raid on Liberio showcased so much promise. A stronger, stoic Armin with much bigger shoes to fill. Even though the regret has never left his eyes, he's only doing what he thinks is right for his people. So what happened? Nothing. No, seriously, nothing. For the rest of the season, Armin took a back seat, playing second fiddle to whoever's integral to forwarding the plot. He's absent during crucial talks where his insight would prove useful. His Titan never gets considered being used again, which basically makes him into an if we can't use it, no one will type of asset. His character development comes to a screeching halt despite the loose ends of taking Erwin's place and his thoughts on inheriting the colossal Titan. As much as I would have liked to defend Armin when the community hopped on the hate train, his usefulness during Season 4 left a lot to be desired. Or at least, that's what I thought. Then again, I could just be overreacting, expecting him to take charge and nuke everything that moves, which conflicts with his morals. So before I start pointing fingers, I'm going to dissect Armin's time during Attack on Titan's final season and find out why there's so much going against him. Is Armin a bad commander? Or are we just not satisfied with what was supposed to be the intended direction? Could it be that this is a case of too many cooks in the kitchen? Was the end of Season 3 Armin's final departure as a main character to make space for other key characters in the future storyline? Looks like it's time to take another trip into the basement and investigate. No matter if you're an apologist or not, anyone and everyone can agree on the fact that Armin's sense of presence in this season is very lacking. Compared to the seasons prior, his screen time has dropped at an exponential rate. After the raid on Liberio, he's pretty much absent for most of the episode, and for the small amount of time that he is present, he either provides little to nothing to the conversation/argument at hand, or when he does provide something, he just backs down for somebody else to take the talking stick, with the exception of defending Eren in lockup.
コニー、ジャン、その子は戦士候補生でライナーら戦士隊の弟分だ。彼らと親しいその子をライナーや車力の巨人と新たな争いを生むことになる。これ以上ライナーたちと殺し合いを繰り返すことはない。
俺の母ちゃんはどうでもいいってことか。俺がどう思ってあの母ちゃんがいる村に帰り、お前には分かんねえってのかよ。お前だってベルトルト食ったから母ちゃん生き返らせるの止めんな。
Oh, boo-hoo! My wife and child are dead. Everybody's got dead people. It's no excuse to get everybody else dead along the way.
Which makes no sense given that when his inside the walls idea faced scrutiny, he stood his ground despite how shaky it looked. Now, of course, he gets his moments, like punching Eren and getting the last word, emotionally manipulating Yelena, becoming a diversion for the Cart Titan, I'll get to why this is dumb later, killing Zeke's Titans, somewhat, and keeping the bomb from blowing up the airship despite being shot multiple times, but all of those important moments are stretched out across 12 episodes, compared to the likes of John, who's present in pretty much every conversation. No hate to John because it's a major comeuppance, and it also makes sense because of Sasha's recent death, which was horribly written by the way, but Armin is a direct friend of who this war is revolving around, yet he stays silent regardless of whatever the topic is. Like I said before, he's just laying there in the background waiting for his cue to come up to help the fans remember that he's a character. To further prove my point, I'm gonna bring up some moments throughout the season where either his intellect or his colossal titan could have been useful. Granted, there aren't many for his titan, and I'll give them that, I mean with the colossal titan being a huge nuke and all, but I'll get to why the exercised restraint was handled dismally in a second. For now, let's have a little fun with this next segment. Upon my first watch of this season, there was always something in the back of my mind eating at me. I couldn't really describe it until I pinned it down in my next watches. Every time a conversation, a planning, or an argument took place, all I could hear in my head on repeat was, man, it'd be really helpful if Armin was here right now. I'll give the first couple of episodes a pass. It was mostly exposition to catch us up on the lost time between then and now, focusing on Mikasa's lineage and Historia's relevance with Eren and Zeke's plan. You know, until they just didn't anymore. I'll also give him the conversation between him, Connie, John, and Mikasa about Eren's past transgressions. Although I do think he should have had a lot more to say, given that he's Eren's best friend, the suggestion of a scout member they trust inheriting the founder if all else fails is the Armin that I wanted to see. It's a small moment, but having your best friend being eaten alive as a last resort is potent in this context. Sadly, it was after the next episode that it all started to go downhill.
ピクシー司令相当失った今我々を束ね統率することができるのは何か今後の展望はございますか
Is this some kind of twisted joke?
I get the premier is of the highest military authority, but what do you think we should do? You worked side by side with Erwin. You're telling me you have nothing to give? Pixis' plan is to be blasé about what happened in order to reduce the amount of deaths that might occur in searching for the traitors. While misguided, as we're told later, that plan literally supports Armin's main goal, to reach an understanding with as little bloodshed as possible. I'm not saying he should have completely come up with the entire plan himself, but he could have thrown a couple bones to make it seem like he had autonomy, especially considering that Hanji and John were skeptical about the plan as well. You're meaning to tell me that he questioned Yelena's plan despite all of the good it did for them, and he was ready to have Eren eaten if they had no other choice, but he also is okay with the scouts entrusting everything to both Zeke and the person he contemplated being fodder for another scout member? It should have been Armin asking these questions not only here when Hanji mentions it, but also back when Pixis was talking about the plan, not some random scout or John. Or take this scene, after the rumbling started. Why is he not in this room when Hanji, Mikasa, and you guessed it, John, are talking about the plan to oppose Eren? Hanji even says that the chain of command has been wiped out. This could have been Armin's chance to step up, to make taking Hanji's place more earned instead of it being by default. I refuse to believe that Armin's peaceful demeanor wouldn't have been a great addition to this conversation. It goes double for when Hanji cuts John off because she thinks that genocide is wrong no matter the reason. If anything, he could have been the mediator seeing both sides, like he always has been. It makes it worse when you bring up Hanji talking about the fallen soldiers. Armin's reaction to seeing Erwin making him reflect on all of his decisions up until now and sizing them up with the great commander could have made for an emotionally poignant moment. But nope, yet again, he's nowhere to be found. But wait, there's more. We're about to go triple with the rest of this episode, because this scene is about the subjects of Ymir and the Marleyans catching up on all that occurred, comparing notes on both millennia-old history and recent events so that they can clear the air and work together. This is perfect for Armin. He doesn't have to take the wheel, but he's talked about wanting to be in a position like this all series. I'm sure he has a lot to add now that he has this chance.
あんたたちに殺せるの？それで考え直すくらいのやつが人類大虐殺なんて実行する。
それはわからないよエレンと話してみないと
それでも虐殺をやめてくれなかった時は
Okay, now say that you'll have to kill him if it comes to that so that we can move on.
エレンが敵だとアホになるからわからないの。
Armin, you were ready to have him eaten by another scout if that was your only option, so tell her that you'll kill him if it comes to that. Armin, say something.
やっぱりね。
He only has 3 lines throughout this entire episode. The second is telling John not to beat up Reiner, and the other is calling John's name. Yelena pretty much did what Armin was supposed to do. Air out all of their grudges so that they can get their mind straight. It also would have been a good time for him to talk about his actions at the raid on Liberio so that we could observe where his head is at. Seeing that and his remorse bounce off of the Marleyans present would have been nice as well. Alas, he stays silent, and another missed opportunity is gone with the wind. But John wouldn't have found out about all that happened to Marco if Yelena hadn't brought it up. Easy fix. Have Connie or John mention it after Armin finishes. I find it hard to believe that neither of them would ask about it now that everyone else's secrets are out on the floor. That can also be Armin's time to calm the room before it gets out of hand, but it does anyways despite his efforts. Everything that happens after can still proceed as it was written, and Armin gets the screen time he deserves. There are many ways to remedy Armin's problem without shattering canon, and they just weren't implemented here. For some reason or another. All he wanted was to help the Marleyans understand that they mean no harm, and now that he has that chance, he has nothing of worth to say. This is probably the biggest hit towards his character because even when all that he worked for led up to this moment, the opportunity just passes him by and he doesn't even think to look twice. This is borderline character assassination.
どうやって襲いかかる敵から死者を出さずに飛行艇と東人を無傷で守りつつ整備にかかる時間を稼ぐのか教えてよアルミン。私を追い詰めた時みたいに作戦を教えて。
See that? Even the show itself wants Armin to do something. And guess what happens? To my surprise, he actually does nothing. Yep, still nothing.
映画の行き先を言え。
マゲト。
怖がらなくていい。殺しはしない。
飛行艇の確保が先だ。
今拷問をしている時間はないだろう。
Why is our Yonkapon telling him that? It should have been Armin, and to be real, he should have been telling him that the second he tried to kill Yelena. She has key information on Erin's whereabouts, and it was obvious that Magath was trying to kill her. He broke her arm for Christ's sake, yet Armin didn't even try to stop him like he did John the previous day. Yelena supported their mission to help Erin, although under different intentions. Reiner has been an enemy for entire seasons. Why stop John from beating Reiner, a Titan user that can heal, but not Magath from almost murdering Yelena, a regular human who once again also knows of Erin's whereabouts? Hello? Armin? Is that you in there? Are you sure that Erin was lying about Berthold taking over your mind? I don't know, seems like coward behavior to me.
断ります。手も汚さず正しくあろうとするなんて。
Oh wow, congrats. Welcome to the team. I'm glad you finally came to your senses and took up the role you were supposed to. About 12 episodes and a broken arm later. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, there were many opportunities to give Armin a chance to grow, but they never took them. He became the wallpaper of the show and was only referred to whenever people started to forget that he was a character. But the worst part is, we're not done yet. As you all know, Armin, one of the most peaceful loving analysts of the Scout Regiment, inherited one of Attack on Titan's most destructive weapons. That dichotomy alone should make for great character work, yet it only gets used twice and mentioned once. First at the raid on Liberio, second in a flashback, and it got mentioned when they were locked up.
巨人の力でここから出ることはできるか？
できない。この街を吹き飛ばすことしか。超大型巨人はそんな器用なことはできない。
After that, it was never brought up again, not even during crucial fights. Yes, of course you can't just go willy-nilly with it, especially now that the Inheritor has a set of morals different from the previous user, but we don't even get exposition on Armin training with it like Eren did with his Attack Titan. You're telling me that Armin and Hanji never wanted to find out how big the blast is, and if the radius could be controlled? Armin never wanted to train his endurance just in case he might need to use the steam exhaust? Think back to the pilot. Berthold transformed right outside the first wall without blowing anything up, so the nuke could have been controlled to some degree. Think about the Battle of Shingashina, where he used the fire of the houses to box in the scouts and their horses. Berthold found many ways to use it, and he wasn't even the sharpest tool in the shed. But with someone as smart as Armin combined with the researching ability of Hanji, it could have made for them to be quite the dominant duo. And what's more, it could have built their relationship over time so that Armin can be Hanji's second in command like he was for Erwin. Sure, training with a nuke that takes up a lot of energy might be difficult, but now that they can roam free in deserts and open spaces, it's not that far-fetched at all. And even if they didn't train, there's still the looming problem with Armin's reluctance to even think about using his Titan. There are many occasions where he should have contemplated it, looking for ways to squeeze it in between battles. You know, like the combat tactician he is, and I'll tell you one instance where he could have used it. Right when he thunder-speared the cart. Let me explain. Piek is far away from the Beast Titan. She goes even farther as she almost gets caught up by his throw when he first shows up. She's shown to be a clear nuisance for both Eren and the Jaegerists, so instead of taking a chance by using an explosive weapon on a Titan protected by a giant metal gun, Armin could have easily told all of the scouts to turn back, retreat, and as soon as he sneaks up to Piek, she and the rest of her soldiers are done for, adding extra distraction points for whoever wants to mess with Zeke and Eren. But wait, if he did that, then anime waifu Oni-chan wouldn't have been able to side with them in the final fight against Eren. Congratulations, you've just described an inconsistency in the writing. How about don't put Armin in a situation that lets him be able to use a previously established ability to not only kill a character that's critical to your plot, but also have it be completely in character to do so. No one said you couldn't backtrack out of the corner you wrote yourself in. It's almost like writers can redraft or something. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say about Armin's Absent Titan and his time in Season 4 as a whole. But Daura, that's not a lot of moments. Exactly. Even with the extra patching and the larger amount of episodes over their predecessors, Armin still doesn't have nearly the amount of screen time the other characters get. The raid on Liberio and the anime waifu Oni-stan style relationship with Ani are his only major points of screen time. It just goes to show that Isayama had no idea where he wanted to go with Armin, which is weird considering the alley-oop he gave himself in Season 3, and it's not even like he got bonked by the rim. He didn't even catch the ball after it hit the backboard.
Real surreal.
Blew that one.
Now this would be the part where I would end the video, but there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about.
エルヴィン団長がこの場にいたら、今答えが出た。僕じゃなかった。
This is the only time pre-part 3 that Armin ever voices his conflict with being saved over Erwin, and that sucks. Even in the raid on Liberio, it sounded like filling Erwin's shoes was still fresh in his mind. He knew what had to be done because now he has amazing standards to reach. Hanji could have been the one to help him with his conflict as she doubts her own abilities as well.
エルヴィン、あんたの唯一の失策だ。なんで私なんか団長にしたんだよ。
They easily could have built off of each other, both filling each of Erwin's shoes. The foundation was practically handed to them. Sadly, Hanji wore the whole pair, only for them to be gifted to Armin later because there was nobody else to turn to. It makes him saving humanity feel unearned, like it solely was because Eren stated it and now it has to be that way, forcing it around full circle. We only get one case of self-doubt. No reflection, no asking for guidance into the abyss, no parallels between his actions in Liberio and the heart-wrenching decisions Erwin made for the good of humanity. All of the setup from the previous season is completely lost, just put back into the toy box and never to be played with again. As each episode went by, I desperately wanted Armin to prove both Flock and the fans wrong. I wanted him to become the leader I know he could have been, the clear suitor for Erwin Smith, but we never get that, not even a sprinkle or a dash until smack at the end. And even then, it still left a bad taste in my mouth, leaving us starved Armin fans starved even more. Armin was not a bad commander. He was just badly handled. Maybe it would have been better if Armin's time in the story ended back at Shingashina, with Erwin looking to embark on a redemption arc to make sure all of the hearts he sacrificed were not in vain. Maybe then, we'd have nothing to be disappointed about. Thank you all for watching, and have a spectacular rest of your day.